The snow wasn't falling anymore. It was hissing. Hissing where it touched the hot exhaust of the bazooka tube slung over his shoulder. December 1944, a forgotten Belgian village named Malmedy. For 19-year-old Private First Class Francis S. Currey, it was the entire world. A world of frozen cobblestones, shattered windows, and the deep gut-rumbling idle of a German tank somewhere just around the corner. His breath plumed in the frigid air, each cloud a fleeting ghost. His fingers, numb inside thin wool gloves, were curled tight around the cold steel of the launcher. He was alone. Not entirely, of course. The rest of his squad from the 120th Infantry Regiment was pinned down in the houses behind him, their rifle fire sounding like pops against the overwhelming noise of the enemy. But out here, on this street, he was the only thing standing between his friends and 45 tons of steel and hate. The sound got louder, a low growl that vibrated through the solace of his boots. Then the metallic clatter and squeal of tracks chewing up the street. It was close. Too close. He peeked around the corner of a stone building. There it was, a Panther. Its long 75mm cannon seemed to sniff the air, and its sloped front armor looked impenetrable, designed to make shells glance off like pebbles. The doctrine they'd been taught was simple: spot the tanks, call in the tank destroyers. But the tank destroyers weren't here. The Battle of the Bulge had shattered the front lines, and German armored spearheads were pouring through the Ardennes forest like a flood. Right now, the entire American anti-tank strategy was him. A teenager from Hurley, New York, holding a weapon he'd barely trained with. The thing on his shoulder was a 2.36-inch M1 bazooka. It wasn't a cannon. It was basically a hollow pipe, open at both ends, that launched a small rocket. The magic was in the warhead, a shaped charge designed to melt through steel armor like a blowtorch. But it had its own cruel rules. It was temperamental in the cold, its batteries known to fail. And to be effective against a beast like the Panther, you had to hit it from the side or the rear, where the armor was thinner. A frontal shot was suicide. The rocket would just splash harmlessly off that thick, angled glacis plate. To get a side shot, he'd have to expose himself. The tank's turret began to traverse, a slow, deliberate turn. The dark snout of its coaxial machine gun swung in his direction. A short burst ripped through the air brap, kicking up chips of stone and snow just feet from his cover. They knew someone was here. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the engine's steady rhythm. The guys in the building were depending on him. There were no other options. No reinforcements were coming. It was just him and this frozen street. Taking a deep, ragged breath that burned his lungs, Francis Currey made the choice. He couldn't stay hidden. He had to move. He had to close the distance. He shifted the weight of the bazooka, the rough metal scraping against his wool coat. Pushing off the wall, he stepped out from behind the corner, into the open. The world narrowed to the tank's flank, a canvas of dark gray steel. He planted his feet in the snow, the cold seeping through his boots, and raised the heavy tube to his shoulder. He could see the rivets, the tool clasps, the individual links of the tracks. 10 more yards. 5. He pressed the stock into his shoulder, squinted through the simple iron sights, his numb finger finding the trigger. The turret was still turning. 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. The fight for this village tightens, shrinking from open fields into a maze of stone and splintered wood. Every alley, every barn doorway is a new front line. For Frederick Currey, the world has become a series of snap decisions, each one a matter of life or death. Just weeks ago, he was a kid from upstate New York, swept up in the whirlwind rush to Europe. Now he's here, a world away from the familiar quiet of home. The bazooka feels both heavy and flimsy in his frozen hands. He remembers the hurried training, the instructor's voice cutting through the damp English air. Aim for the flanks. Don't try to punch through the front. And for God's sake, watch the backblast. Simple rules for a complex, terrifying job. Here in the Ardennes, theory has frozen solid. Winter fuel shortages mean the batteries for the launcher are sluggish, unreliable. The M6 rockets themselves are temperamental. They need a certain distance to arm properly after being fired. Too close and it's a dud. Too far and you miss. And that backblast? In these narrow streets, it's a killer. A cone of fire that can trap and incinerate you and anyone behind you. He peers around the edge of a crumbling stone wall. The Germans are professionals. They hunt in packs. A squad of Panzer grenadiers moves methodically, checking windows and doorways, their rifles probing for any sign of resistance. Covering them, its long cannon traversing slowly, is a Panzer IV. Its coaxial machine gun spits short, angry bursts, stitching lines of fire across the buildings, suppressing any would-be heroes. This isn't a duel. This is stalking a predator that knows you're there. You don't face it head-on. You hunt for an angle, a moment of weakness. Currey signals to his loader, it's now or never. They hoist the bazooka onto his shoulder. He takes a breath, the frigid air burning his lungs. The tank's profile fills his sight. He's aiming for the vulnerable space just above the road wheels, below the fixtures and armor skirts designed to defeat this very weapon. He squeezes the trigger. The rocket screams away, followed by a violent roar and a blast of superheated gas that slams them back against the wall. His ears ring, dust and snow filling the air. Through the haze he sees the result. The round detonated low, near the track. It wasn't a kill shot, but it worked. The tank lurches, one track chewed up, and with a grinding of gears it begins to reverse, pulling back out of the alley to reassess. A small victory, but the cost is immediate. His loader is down, dazed and pinned by the machine gun fire that now rakes their position. The Germans know exactly where they are. Fear, cold and sharp, cuts through the adrenaline. A miscalculation. A buddy stunned and vulnerable. This is the reality of it. He scrambles for cover, dragging his partner with him. The blue and red old hickory patch on his sleeve, the emblem of the 30th Infantry Division, is caked with mud and grime. He takes a quick inventory. A handful of rockets left. That's it. His heart pounds against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the steady, menacing clank of metal tracks. The sound is getting closer. Peeking through a crack in the timbers of a barn, his stomach drops. It's a second tank, a Panther this time. Its sloping armor looking impenetrable as it noses into the street, a more lethal predator joining the hunt. At the same time, the German infantry are pushing forward, their gray uniforms appearing like ghosts through the swirling snow, getting closer, their voices audible now. He's trapped. He has maybe 2-3 good shots left, and only seconds to find a new position, a new flanking angle, before they're completely overrun. Static crackles through the radio, screams, distant gunfire. For Sergeant Francis Currey, the world has shrunk to this one snow-covered street in Malmedy, Belgium. The date is December 21st, 1944, and the Battle of the Bulge is a raging inferno. His platoon is scattered, pinned down. A tank destroyer crew, his friends, are trapped inside a stone house just across the street, and a German Tiger tank is methodically pounding it to rubble. Time feels both frozen and impossibly fast. Currey's mind is a frantic calculator. Distance to the tank, maybe 50 yards. Angle of its armor, too steep. The machine gun on its turret is spitting fire, chewing up the buildings around him, stitching lines of death across the snow. He can hear the radio calls, garbled and desperate. We're taking direct hits. Can anyone... The transmission cuts out. It's the tank destroyer crew. A flash of memory hits him, a dusty training field back in the States. An instructor's voice, bored and repetitive. Aim for the tracks, the suspension, the rear. Don't waste a shot on the front. The numb calculus of command kicks in. If I stay here, they die. If I run now, maybe we all die, but maybe I can make a difference. There's a bazooka leaning against a shattered wall nearby, its previous owner no longer needing it. It's a gamble, a death sentence to expose himself. He doesn't hesitate. Taking a deep breath, Currey explodes from his cover, sprinting across the open ground. The air tears around him as the tank's machine gun swivels. He feels the thud of rounds hitting the wall behind him, the sting of stone chips on his face. He dives, skidding behind a wrecked jeep, grabbing the bazooka and a precious few rockets. His heart hammers against his ribs, but his hands are steady. He crawls forward, belly down in the freezing snow, the Tiger tank looming like a prehistoric beast. The machine gun is still firing, searching for him. A burst rips up the ground inches from his head, showering him with icy dirt. He keeps going, closer, closer. He rises to one knee, shoulders the tube, and the world narrows to the small sight. He aims for the suspension, right where the instructor said. The backblast kicks up a cloud of snow as the rocket screams across the street. A bright flash, a clang of metal on metal. It's a hit. The tank doesn't explode, but it lurches, one of its tracks grinding to a halt, damaged. It's not a killing blow, but it's enough. The behemoth begins to pull back, retreating to assess the damage. A small victory, but the street is still crawling with German infantry moving up behind their armored support. Currey scrambles back, his mind already on the next problem. The bazooka is good against armor, but not against infantry. He spots the disabled American half-track that the tank had been targeting. Its .50 caliber Browning machine gun is still mounted, gleaming darkly, another mad dash through enemy fire. He vaults into the half-track, wrenching the heavy weapon from its pintle mount. It's heavy, unwieldy, but it's a buzzsaw of lead. He finds a new position in a bombed-out storefront, props the Browning on a pile of rubble, and opens fire. The gun bucks and roars in his hands, a glorious, deafening sound. He rakes the German infantry line, breaking up their advance, forcing them to scatter for cover. In the brief lull he creates, he sees his chance. "Get out, now!" He yells toward the house where the tank destroyer crew is trapped. He lays down another burst of covering fire as the door flies open and 4 dazed, dust-covered GIs stumble out, sprinting toward his position. It's a choice that costs him precious seconds the enemy could use to regroup. But as they dive in beside him, their faces a mixture of terror and gratitude. His resolve hardens into steel. But the fight isn't over. The momentary silence is broken by the grinding roar of an engine. The Tiger tank is back. It's nosing around the corner again, its long barrel sniffing the air. The driver is smart, angling the thick frontal glacis plate towards him, presenting the smallest possible target. But in doing so, he exposes the hub of the drive wheel on the newly repaired track. It's a desperate shot, almost impossible. To take it, Currey knows he has to leave his cover. He has to step out into the open street, into the monster's direct line of sight, and face it down one more time. The world shrinks to the size of a bazooka sight. Through the small metal frame, the Panzer IV is a steel beast, growing larger. Its long 75mm cannon a menacing finger pointed right at Currey. His heart is a drum against his ribs, a frantic rhythm in the sudden, shocking silence. His hands, which had been trembling, are now rock steady. He's been training for this, but training is a ghost. A whisper compared to the cold, hard reality of a 40-ton tank rumbling toward you. He tracks the tank's movement, leading it just a fraction. The German infantry are fanning out, shadows detaching from the metal giant, their rifles spitting fire. He can't worry about them. Not yet. He has to stop the tank. That's the only thing that matters. He squeezes the trigger. The whoosh of the rocket is a violent exhalation. For a split second, the world is a corkscrew of fire and smoke. The air freezes, holding its breath. Then, an eternity of nothing. The rocket streaks across the frozen ground, a meteor of vengeance. The impact is not a Hollywood explosion, but a brutal, grinding scream of metal tearing metal. The Panzer IV lurches violently, like a wounded animal. Its right track snaps, links flying apart, and the massive hull cants awkwardly to one side, crippled and exposed. The battlefield, which had felt a mile wide, now feels like it's 10 feet across. The German infantry, momentarily stunned, recover and try to flank, but Currey is already moving. He dives behind the wreck of a Sherman, yanking the heavy .50 caliber machine gun from its pintle mount. The weapon is heavy, unwieldy, but in his hands it's a scythe. He braces it against the ruined hull and opens fire, stitching the doorways and windows of the surrounding houses with a devastating torrent of heavy rounds. The Germans scramble for cover, pinned down by the sheer volume of his fire. Inside the crippled Panzer, the commander is cursing the cold, the mud, and the impossibly stubborn American. His periscopes are useless, shattered by the concussive blast. He's blind, a cyclops with its eye put out. He screams orders, but the noise and chaos are overwhelming. Currey scrambles back to his position, his assistant already there, fumbling a fresh rocket from its tube. The soldiers' hands are shaking now, the adrenaline wearing off, replaced by the raw terror of their situation. Currey takes the rocket, his own hand steady once more. He claps the soldier on the shoulder. "We're okay. We're okay," he says, his voice a low rasp. The rocket clatters into the bazooka's tube, the sound a final metallic click of a promise. He knows he has to move. The backblast from the bazooka is a giant, fiery signature. Stay in one place and you're a target. But he can't hide. The men of his company are relying on him. He is their shield. He has to stay visible, to draw the fire, to keep that tank's attention locked on him. It's a battle between the instinct to survive and the duty to protect. He peeks over his cover. The Panzer's turret is beginning to traverse, slowly, horribly, the long gun swinging around, hunting for him. It's a deadly game of cat and mouse. He relocates, crab scuttling 20 feet to his left, behind a low stone trough in what was once a farmer's yard. He can see a German rifleman, his face a pale oval of disbelief staring at him. The man is stunned by this lone American who just won't quit, who won't run, who keeps fighting. The tank's turret stops, its cannon pointed roughly in his direction. The commander's hatch on top of the turret is dogged shut, but not sealed. They're still in there, alive, waiting. Currey rests the bazooka on the trough, a final rocket balanced across his knees. He takes a breath, the cold air stinging his lungs. He has one last chance to end this without more bloodshed. He calls out, his voice surprisingly strong, his German accented but clear. "Kommen Sie raus! Hon ho! Come out with your hands up!" Silence. The only sound is the creak of the damaged tank and the wind whistling through the ruined village. The hatch remains closed. The long, dark barrel of the 75mm cannon stares at him, a black, unblinking eye. Currey's finger rests on the trigger of the bazooka, his last rocket a final deadly question. The silence is broken by a metallic groan. One by one, the hatch dogs on the Panther tank begin to turn. This isn't a trick. It's a choice. The heavy steel hatch grinds open and 4 German soldiers tumble out, shivering in the Belgian cold, their faces a mask of fury and exhaustion. Standing before them is a lone American private, Roger Currey, clutching a now empty bazooka tube. He shouts for backup, his voice raw as he single-handedly covers and disarms the tank crew. Let's be clear about what captured means in this moment. The Panther, a 45-ton beast of steel, is immobilized but largely intact. Its crew are now prisoners of war. The vehicle itself, once a terrifying threat, is now an American asset, a prize waiting to be secured. The deafening roar of its engine is gone, and a sudden, almost unnerving quiet settles over the war-torn street. As fellow G's emerge, dazed from a nearby house that was merely their tomb, the reality of the situation begins to sink in. Currey looks at his hands, and for the first time he feels them shaking. The adrenaline fades, replaced by the staggering realization that he is still alive. He just faced down one of the most feared tanks of the war and won. For his incredible bravery near Malmedy, Belgium, Private First Class Roger Currey would be awarded the Medal of Honor. His story stands as a powerful example of countless similar, lesser-known actions where bazooka teams faced down German armor. But let's separate the man from the myth. How did he do it? A standard 2.36-inch bazooka rocket couldn't reliably penetrate a Panther's thick frontal armor. This wasn't about bravado. It was about tactical genius. Currey didn't aim for a kill shot head-on. He used skill and angles, targeting the tank's vulnerable turret ring and treads. He methodically disabled the machine, trapping the crew inside their own metal fortress. He turned their greatest strength into their prison. The choices of one determined teenager on that frigid morning literally shifted the battle lines. This brings us back to the heart of the story. Sometimes, capturing a tank isn't about blowing it to pieces. It's just about forcing the men inside to make a decision, to choose their lives over their machine. It's a testament to the fact that even in the face of overwhelming odds, human courage, ingenuity, and the will to survive can triumph over steel. If you were moved by this incredible true story of how ordinary soldiers can bend the course of history, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We have so many more untold stories from World War II to share with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.